Hi everyone, happy Wednesday and happy Scoliosis Awareness Month. I just wanted to hop on today for my weekly IG Live, but we also have a special guest today. Hi Insta Kathy, hey Theory. Hi everyone, I am gonna add, let's see. Okay, so we're just waiting for Aida to join us. I think she's going to be connecting now. How is everyone doing? I want to see an emoji on how you're feeling. I know that things have been very heavy the past couple weeks. So I did send out an email last week just about the whole Black Lives Movement and everything. So I hope that you got it. And if you have any feedback or if you have any questions or if there's anything that you want more information about or anything, I would love to hear from you. So please let me know. Pari, I'm doing a lot better this week. I'm just trying to disconnect a little bit from social media just because the constant scrolling has been a lot to just kind of sit in everything to process things as well. So hi, Katya. So we're just waiting for Aida to join us. It says it's connecting. I'm not sure if it worked. Let me try that again. 1 second, everyone. Hi, Marie. Hi, Harmony. There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
I was thinking, how does it work?
Okay. All right. Can you hear
You
me
know,
okay?
yeah, perfectly. Brilliant.
Okay.
Hello. How are you? So
Good.
happy.
Yeah, thank you for joining today. I'm very excited to have you on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me.
yeah, of course. I wanted to do something special for our scoliosis community, especially for Scoliosis Awareness Month. And I wanted to bring you on because we met through social media, through Instagram, actually last summer. So I just want to tell everyone, I guess, like a little bit of the background story of how I met Ida. So we were just connecting through Instagram. I think we both had just ended up
Yeah.
following each other. And then I was coming to London for a short visit because I'm between London and LA and kind of been all over the place. And we ended up meeting up for smoothies one day. And it's funny because my boyfriend is always like, "Oh, you basically went on like a date." Because I think we met up for like 3 hours and couldn't really stop talking. It was just sharing our experiences of scoliosis. And even though we have
Sure.
completely different backgrounds and different experiences with our scoliosis, there were so many commonalities that we found in each
Mhm.
other. So, which I thought was really amazing.
Yeah, it's true. I remember when I just met you, actually, it was like a month since I created the Scoliosis Mental Health page.
Mm-hmm.
And you wrote me and I said, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, why not? Yoga for scoliosis and fitness, blah blah blah, and found it very interesting. And back then I didn't practice yoga seriously, was more relaxed. And yeah, it was very nice to know that another person with scoliosis was doing something with it
Mm-hmm.
as well, like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that day we figured out that we studied in the same place
Mm-hmm.
in the Royal National Orthopedic Hospital in London.
Right.
And that was crazy, right?
Yeah.
Because we very likely that we crossed paths there in the hospital, and we didn't know back then.
Mm-hmm.
You did your master there, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So I
yeah,
actually
and
did
then
my master's in physical therapy and musculoskeletal healthcare and rehabilitation at UCL, and
mhm,
then it was in partnership with the Royal National Orthopedic Hospital, and that's where Princess Eugenie had her scoliosis surgery.
correct.
Yeah, and then so that's what
That's
the
the famous hospital.
yeah, and then a lot of our classes were in Stanmore, and so that's where you're doing your PhD, right?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, well, I'm engineer. Actually, I'm not psychologist or nothing about it, but yeah, I just created the page to share a little bit my thoughts, kind of like a way to put sticky notes and reminders.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the page looked like a sticky note.
Yeah.
The yellow sticky notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very, very interesting also to post old pictures
Right.
with it
Mm-hmm.
of scoliosis, because it's been a while since that condition exists in the world. And yeah, treatments also were slightly different.
Yeah.
So we're kind of fortunate to have the treatments now, because back then they looked like torture machines basically. And that's really, well, it's something you have to look back and say, okay, I'm grateful of being born right now.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, what I'm doing, because I lost track a little bit, what I'm doing in the hospital basically is I'm also working in scoliosis, and I'm designing a patient-specific guides. They are 3D printed and custom made for every patient. And what the aim of those guides is to give personalized surgery and improve the safety when you put the screws in. Now maybe I can show a little bit here. But that's a scoliotic spine, and basically that's the guide I designed. That is custom made for every vertebra.
Wow.
So basically, it's drilling in a design trajectory to avoid the screw goes up or down, and because the spinal cord it's here inside, right?
Okay.
So there's a lot of risk in there, and those guides is just an alternative to robotic and image guided. Are a little bit more complicated, more expensive, and they are not in all hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's very interesting topic. I was kind of caught, and I couldn't say no. I was thinking I have to do that PhD.
Yeah.
I have scoliosis. I had the surgery. I
Right.
have to do something with it. Yeah.
Did you have such a different
So
appreciation for your surgery and for your scoliosis now that you're working so closely with all of it?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I managed to see hundreds of surgeries. And,
Mm.
the patients, I'm not very in contact with them. When I go to surgery, they are already asleep. But yeah, sometimes I have the chance to see them, and then I kind of remind me when I was in the hospital and I went through the same, and it's actually very. Uh, I have flashbacks somehow, and and I must say that is an experience that if you are not very strong in your mind, it's very easy to get caught and get sad about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same when I see when you might see a girl, or when you teach a girl or a boy with scoliosis, and you can become very emotional at some point, but also encouraged you at the same time.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing about people who has scoliosis and somehow end up working in something related with scoliosis. It's a way to transform what you live,
Mm-hmm.
that painful experience, in something positive and very encouraging.
Yeah. It's almost like as much as it's like almost like therapeutic for us to be working with people with scoliosis as well as for hopefully for the other person as well. So as we're like helping
Mm-hmm.
them and through everything that they're experiencing.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So how
it's like that.
so is that why you created your Instagram, your scoliosis mental health? So just kind of like for your personal journey, but then also just as you are working through your PhD and everything as well.
Yeah, it was a I created basically for me at the beginning, but later on was also a way to connect with the patients more, because that was what was missing in my PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see there's a huge community. When I had the surgery 20 years ago, that internet didn't exist even. So I couldn't share my experience. I was the only one in my school having scoliosis. And I think it's awesome girls nowadays share these stories, their pictures. They tell each other it's fine, don't worry, what to bring to the hospital, what not to bring, what to expect. And they do therapy to each other somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting how
and it's good.
that's how it's like that with social media now, you know, just like the younger generation and just like anyone who's experienced it. There's just so many more resources than I think when we were first experiencing it for ourselves. So it is interesting.
Yeah, much more resources.
Yeah, which is great that we can also use the platforms to share ours as well. So our experiences and what we are doing too. So yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I know that obviously a lot of the stuff that I touch upon, a lot of it comes off as more of just like the physical piece of it, but of course the emotional and the mental part of scoliosis is such a big part of what we go through, even though it's a visible like curvature, but it's obviously what's happening inside our body, but then also inside our mind as we are dealing with the situation, especially because a lot, like 80% of cases are during adolescence as well.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
In that age, when you are 10 years old, 12, or even 20, doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's. I think in that moment you're not conscious of what is happening. That because it's quite severe. If you think about it, is your spine. It's bending. It's progressing the curve. You might have a corset, you might have physical therapy, but you never know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
And probably you are years dealing with that uncertainty. Okay. And that's makes you feel very insecure. Also, there's no answers. Not even the doctors have the answer there. And not even if you do the right thing, that's wearing corset or doing your exercises, will guarantee you that you will not go into surgery. And that creates a lot of inner talk. You're constantly asking yourself, or even feeling guilty if you haven't done the exercises. And at some point, if you go to the surgery, I remember thinking, that's because I haven't swum enough. It's because I haven't done enough.
Right.
And it's my fault that I've gone into surgery. And that's not true. That's not true. You never know.
Yeah.
It's something very difficult to control, and all the doctors say it. I read actually a sentence the other day in an article that scoliosis is the cancer of orthopedics. It was quite strong, and when I read it, I thought, yeah, well, maybe. Maybe.
Interesting.
Because there's no really a treatment that guarantees you a cure.
Right.
So somehow it makes sense. But it was quite a strong sentence to hear.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's a really strong statement. Look for it.
Yeah, it was very strong. But yeah, it was made me think, at least. Made me think. The comparison.
Yeah. I think so much of it is what you touched upon is just like the unknown. Like you don't know like what will happen. Even if you do the physical therapy, even if you're doing the surgery, the bracing, you don't know the actual outcome. And I think the unknowns is what makes it so hard for all of us. Is just, I guess it's like a lot of, because at the root of anxiety, a lot of times it's just like losing, like is that you want to control a situation, right? And so the fact that we can't control it is causing all of this anxiousness, you know, like, but I think there are things that we can do to help avoid, like, you know, to help to avoid certain situations or from the scoliosis from getting worse. But then it's also the fact that there's a lot that's misunderstood, because I think sometimes if you go to certain doctors or certain surgeons or physical therapists, not everyone's working together as a team. So I think that is part of the issue. I think it'd be a lot better if, you know, like if
True.
everyone was communicating more. So like even from my physical therapy program I was doing, even when I was talking to the spine surgeons, not all of them are recommending physical therapy when, you know, it's kind of like everything should be cohesive. And then that's just the physical part. So it should also be someone to speak to people about the mental health piece of it and the well-being. You know, like how, like certain self-care practices that I'm really excited that we're going to touch upon today, that will hopefully that we've done to help ourselves, but then hopefully it can help other people that are listening as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That somehow everybody has experienced that uncertainty now with COVID, no?
Mm-hmm.
You,
Yep.
you can make plans, absolutely. And so imagine, actually the other day, I'm talking with a friend, my friend Anna Grandival, we were talking. You know, also with the COVID, you know, we couldn't breathe. We were kind of stuck in our courses,
Yep.
and we couldn't do everything. We couldn't go out, and we went through kind of a COVID experience with scoliosis as well.
Yeah, I guess
And
some commonalities there, right, that you're finding.
yeah,
Gotta move because there's a mirror.
that was funny, and yeah, all that situation, it's awful. It's awful. And
Yeah.
when you're a kid, you might be or either hiding your emotions, or maybe you are just putting them out all the time. You can express both, no?
Mm-hmm.
And because people has different mechanisms to say, to express their emotions. Some girls I know, they might cry a lot and spend a lot of time alone and isolate themselves from friends. That's very common. But it could also happen that it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
That those girls get try to be with the friends all the time to avoid thinking,
Right,
and have fun to avoid completely thinking about scoliosis and disconnect completely from anything that is linked to scoliosis.
mm-hmm.
We have to pay attention to in which group are we, and because those are usually resistances that we have to listen
Mm-hmm.
to what we are really feeling. Okay, so there's one question there, but maybe we'll go through the questions later, or should we?
Yeah, okay, we could just answer them real quick and then maybe we'll go into the self-care practices.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there was a question earlier just by Pari, does scoliosis affect the eye? As far as I know, scoliosis doesn't affect the eye too much, but I mean, I think depending on where, if it's impacting certain nerves, then it's going to impact certain parts of your body. So that's going to be those are definitely very more particular cases for that.
Yeah, not necessarily has to affect the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not commonly that I've heard of anything. And then Sarna asked, does scoliosis only happen when you're a child, or can it happen at any moment? So scoliosis can happen at any time, but the most common cases of scoliosis is adolescent idiopathic scoliosis, and that's usually between like 10 to 18 years old when you're diagnosed. But you can also, there's congenital scoliosis, there's degenerative scoliosis, there's lots of different types as well.
Yeah, congenital, that can be either genetic or idiopathic, but idiopathic is the most common. Is 80% of patients are idiopathic, and that's why this is very interesting, and I'm very keen that in idiopathic cases, emotions could be somehow the reason. Okay, I personally felt very, how to say, not valued in my family. Okay, so
emotions weren't, you saying?
Sorry?
Emotions weren't valued in your family?
yeah, I felt not
Oh, not,
valuable
okay.
in my family. I feel very invisible, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that made me feel, okay, I'm not worthy, okay? And it could be related, and also, uh, it, but it's complex. That's because it's my own journey as well, and I dig it there. I did some inner child work that I think it's very important. But the inner child, maybe it's better to do it later on when you 30. Because with 12 years old, probably you're not aware you're a child in that moment. You can't do that work yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you can do other stuff like breathing techniques, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Breathing, we might think, well, that's stupid, right? That why breathing will what that has to do something with relaxing? Yeah, it has, and especially if you breathe with your belly.
Mm-hmm.
Is important because if you breathe with your lungs, it activates you. And if you breathe with your belly, then it relaxes you.
Right.
So there are different breathing techniques that you can investigate,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they are really, really good. They're also good when you do yoga poses, also breathing very deeply. You can feel the muscles, how they stretch. And that's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do a lot of the in my Scolio fitness program, we do a lot of the breathing with the like diaphragmatic breathing, the belly breathing that you're talking about, just because that does relax the body and kind of gets you in more of a sympathetic, I mean, out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system. So just kind of stimulating more of that relaxation, the rest and digest part. And that's more of like the maybe 4 count, like a slower exhale, kind of like a 4 count inhale, 8 count exhale. But then also, I guess, like as you're going through these practices, there's also that's more of the relaxation breath. But then there's also the I can't even say it right now, but the breath for transformation. And that's more of a faster
Okay.
breath in a way, because that's going to help to
Yeah,
break
so
down
you
the barriers.
oxygenate.
Right. Yeah. So that's something that everyone who's watching or you're watching later, if you're interested in, then we can kind of go into that more a little in another session or something. But yeah, the breath is
Exactly.
so important. And that's something so great because that's something that we can control. And I think once you're going to feel a little bit more of that control and slowing things down in your body, then that's going to help you get into a better mindset with everything moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It breathing is super effective, more than meditation. And every time when I want to have a quick boost of empty my mind, I do breathing exercises, and I would recommend them 100%. They're very effective. At the beginning, I thought they were kind of a spiritual thing that is somehow, but there's a lot of science behind that. Because the more you oxygenate your body and your brain especially, it is not fighting for oxygen, so it's kind of doing a work. It's activating new zones, and there is a process there that you can go on internet and learn about it, but you don't need to know it. But just to let you know that it works that way. It's about hormone regulation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have high levels of cortisol, then you do breathing techniques and they go down. And almost everything affects your hormones: exercise, diet, everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So just to be aware how to regulate those things,
Mm-hmm.
and read your body what it needs in every moment. Because that's what we talked about the other day, and what I'm posting lately in my page, that it's about the needs, because we felt a lot of pain in our bodies, right? Or we not only physical pain, but as well also emotional pain. I used to look to the mirror and think, I don't like myself, and I'm not perfect. I'm even more imperfect. I'm deformed. Okay. And talk very badly to myself, and So kind of I wasn't friendly to my body. I wasn't speaking well to my body.
Yeah.
And kind of, okay, I have to look to the mirror every morning, but the sensations and the feelings, I'm going to disconnect completely from them. And at some points, I realized that even when I was either overworking or being completely lazy, going in extremes without even noticing what I needed in that moment. And sometimes I was angry without knowing why I was angry. Okay. And when in that moment, I ask myself, okay, I'm angry. Why I'm angry? And sometimes it was just because I'm hungry, because I want to finish this. I haven't managed to finish it. And that's why I'm feeling anxious. And where I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling anxious in here. So knowing your zones, knowing when your stomach is asking for food, or when you need a 5 minutes break because your mind is racing, and you feel somehow pain in your head when you feel that your mind is racing.
Mm-hmm.
So some those kind of awareness that I think we have even more disconnected than normal, because normal people also is disconnected from their bodies, not only us who are having scoliosis. It's everybody, but
Yeah.
especially us might have even a broader disconnection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's why it's so important, like what you said earlier, about just kind of taking a moment so that we can connect to our bodies. So whether that is slowing down, like, kind of disconnecting from social media or getting away from your computer, or not making sure you have a gazillion things on your calendar all the time. So just kind of taking a moment and like sitting in it. And sometimes that is uncomfortable because it's feeling the pain, or it's feeling the discomfort of even just what's happening in the world right now. Just sitting in it and feeling that in your body, and noticing where you're feeling it and why, and just kind of so that you can kind of, yeah, like understanding why you're feeling it. And then reconnecting with your breath. And then from there, you can move forward with a clearer mind, and one that you're not speaking, just the one that where you're not only speaking out of emotion, right? So then you have more just
You can choose.
right.
You can actually choose how to react.
Right.
That is true. That moment when you are anxious and you just react out of the emotion, then it's usually it's a disaster. It's a completely disaster.
Yeah.
So you should give yourself a couple of deep breaths, and then you think, okay, ask the question. That's very important. The question: what I'm feeling right now in my body?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel the pressure, the anxiety? I feel it in my head. Okay, I need a break.
Right.
Just go 5 minutes and empty my mind. Or sometimes it's just as simple as I'm hungry, and we don't realize. Or also, well, we will talk about hungry later. Sometimes we eat out of anxiety as well, or we starve ourselves out of because we don't love ourselves. That's also another point. When it happens very much to me when I'm sad or when I'm busy, I don't eat. I forget to eat. And and my body even is not creating the need of eating. It's crazy. So it can be very challenging to learn to listen to your body, because your thoughts create emotions, and those emotions create actions, right? You decide based on your emotions what you're feeling in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the importance of creating positive thoughts, or at least being aware
Mm-hmm.
of the bad thoughts, it's crucial. All starts here.
Yeah.
Then it comes down here to the emotions, and then you decide what to do with that emotion, how you act, you react, and then you create your reality from there.
Mm-hmm. How do you create those positive emotions? Like, what are your practices to get out of that monkey mind in a way, you know?
Good questions. Were many ways. The ones I use very often, almost daily, is journaling. You can journal and write down without any filter, no pretending to create a story,
Mm-hmm.
just writing.
Do you have journal prompts,
Then,
or you just kind of write whatever's in your mind?
I honestly write whatever is on my mind in that moment, with no any criteria. There are no script, but you can have a script for sure, or answer some questions. For example, you can say, was just the question we just mentioned. What am I feeling right now?
Right.
Okay. If you want to set up a script, it's great. So you can follow it every day and compare each day. What else? You can also set an intention for that day. For example, I want to feel today, I want to feel, or I want to be productive in my work, or I just want to be happy and enjoy the day with my mind rushing. So setting that intention is what we said about, where you create your thought. So the moment you state that thought, or you write that sentence in a notebook or on your mind, then you automatically you're creating the motion.
Right.
And then when you create the motion, all goes easily. You're already feeling it. You're feeling great.
Yeah.
Because the thoughts you wrote in the notebook, it's a positive thought, hopefully.
Yeah.
And when it's not, and you are aware, that's very important, because sometimes you're not aware because that voice is very small, it's very tiny inside you. That's also you have to train to cut yourself thinking, not talking very well to yourself. Then what you can do is an exercise that I do is I just take a sheet, I put a line in the middle, and I write the positive sentence here, okay? And I write it 40 times, but you can write as many times as you want.
Do you write the same sentence over and over 40 times?
Yes, in this side, yes.
Okay.
In the side, yes. And then in this left side, what I do is write the first thing that comes to my mind, that usually they are like prejudgments, resistance. For example, I am worthy no more than that. That's a positive statement, all right? And then on the left side, on the right side, sorry, it comes to my mind. No, but some people think I'm not worthy, or some people is not valuing me, okay? And then you write that. You just write it. Write all those things, because those things are usually the lies you tell to yourself.
Right.
And when you go through them later, you realize that this is the way I'm talking to me. It's awful. How do you expect you? Of course, I'm feeling like shit. I'm talking to me like shit.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting point. It is so true. It's like that inner talk that we have with ourselves. Like, I guess just like, almost like thinking about, like, would you ever say that to like me, right? And if you wouldn't, like, why would you say it to yourself? Like, would you ever say it to your friend, to your mom, to, you know, your significant other? Why are you saying that to yourself? But then also just the language that we use, not just that inner talk, but it's the language that we use around it. I know like earlier when when you said you looked in a mirror and if you say like, I have a deformity. So even using that word deformity is so harsh, like versus just like, I have a curvy back. Like it makes such a difference in how we can embrace what we're going through and embrace like our bodies and embrace our scoliosis instead of seeing it as something just because that's just a name that somebody gave it, right? Or that's just what the doctor said that we had or something. So I think that's really
exactly
important. Yeah.
The thing with all that is it's not only, sometimes it's not only the spine, can be anything else. Anything that you don't like about your body or about your behavior. We identify ourselves very much with, in one side with what people say, and on the other side with we say about ourselves.
Yeah.
So those identifications are limits we are putting ourselves. We are defining ourselves in a very square mind, and we shouldn't do that, because you once again, going back about creating thoughts and reality, if you tell yourself that I am deformed, then you're gonna believe it and you're gonna feel emotion.
Right.
So let's try to rewire that and kind of brainwash ourselves with good stuff. That's a way to show love to yourself, because nobody's gonna come and tell you do it, or nobody's gonna do it for you at first.
Yeah.
And even if someone tells you you're not deformed, you're worthy, the positive, the moment you need people to tell you that, you need that approval to survive, you're putting your happiness outside you. So you're not your own, the owner of your life and the owner of your thoughts.
Right.
You see there how it works. So it's very, very, there's a lot going on there, but it's also at the same time very simple if you think that way. It can be very, very simple. You don't need, it's not a complicated science there. But what is difficult is to commit to it. I know that, because then comes your ego, or your that is trying to protect you, because our mind has a side that tries to protect ourselves, that comes with with our animal instincts. Okay. But we don't need those instincts anymore. We're not going out to fight with animals. We don't need that survival instinct anymore. Be aware when you are really overprotecting or trying to manipulate yourself with all that. Or for example, if you start one practice, the body will put resistance. That's the first approach. Why? Because it's new for you. Your body has to make an extra effort to start something. You are creating from scratch those thoughts. You're creating from scratch those emotions. So there's a different route your brain has to take. And until that route, it's really strong.
Yeah.
You will find resistance. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think because we want to be in what's comfortable, right? So even if that, if that negative self-talk is not serving us. It's still what's comfortable because that's what we know. So it's part of even like that inner child work that you were talking about before. Like, it's kind of like, you know, like even if when you grew up, you had a certain experience. So like for me, like my dad always told me that like crying was a sign of weakness. So that was really hard for like, so that was something that was like, okay, I have to be strong. I have to have this like strong exterior. And then I'd carry that into, you know, my adult years, but then that wasn't actually serving me because then then I might like snap if something, you know, I will get angry at somebody else instead of just like feeling the emotion. So I think right now a lot of that work is, and even though it was like uncomfortable, but being okay with crying, being okay with having like this physical release of emotion that's like trapped, right? So it's kind of just like that. You're used to what's comfortable, even if it's not good for you, and even if it's like it's not serving you in the best
That's a
way.
good point.
Yeah.
That's a good
So it's a
point.
matter of just taking it slowly, being, you know, being okay with being uncomfortable, and also being okay, like, and
Exactly.
be okay that it's gonna take time, and this is all a process, and that's the whole point, right? Like that's why we're here. We're all constantly evolving, and you know, some days are going to be better than others. Like last week was really hard for me and for lots of people all over the world. You know, that I addressed that in my newsletter last week, and this week's a little bit better because I'm taking better self-care of myself, even though there's all those external things that are still there that I'm still working through, but it's still, you know, it's all going to be a process, and it's all okay. Like it's okay to not be okay some days. Yeah.
Exactly.
But then also
It
just
shouldn't
know
be
that
fed
there's
up
tools.
by positive.
Yeah.
We can't be okay all the time. That's unnatural. It's not real, and it can be. It's just we function in polarities,
Mm-hmm.
and what we have to aim is keep our balance as much as possible. But it's necessary to, and actually is natural. Also, animals have days that feel more down, and those days is what make you reflect when you can go within and think, and because if you were always happy, you will be always okay. I'm not learning, no evolving. You need to be uncomfortable to grow. It's just that way. It works like that, and the moment you accept those moments, they start to be smaller already because you're not giving power to that. You're not giving the importance to those bad days that you used to before.
Mm-hmm.
If you look to those bad days that you have, that I don't like to call them bad days, it's just like, okay, this today I feel not that energetic, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I use them to reflect, and those days I have huge insights, and I calm down, think, I plan, I just do other things that require less energy.
Right.
So I adapt my life a little bit to that as well. That would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Not all jobs you can do that, but you can always look a moment during the day to do that.
Right.
And that's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's also very dangerous to victimize yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you are in that dark moment and start thinking, I'm the only one, I'm the worst, I'm the only one who's suffering. Um, it's very easy, yeah, to go that way because it feels extremely comfortable, because it's just a way to put an excuse not to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
You get caught in your shadow
Mm-hmm.
and start to listen to sad music. And then you create the perfect atmosphere to even become more sad, uh, which is okay. You can do it if it works for you, but usually it takes longer to go out from there.
Yeah.
And let's try to to make positive those moments, because they're not bad.
Right. So,
those moments are for reflection, and they're needed.
Yeah. So it's almost just like acknowledging it, so then you can move forward from it. Right.
Exactly, and they lose control over you as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's magic. The moment you say, okay, today it's not my day, I need a break, and I'm feeling angry. Yes, I'm feeling angry. The moment you say the statement, you start feeling less angry. Just try it, because it's magic.
Yeah, it's
It's true.
true. It's interesting because it's like, even if you said, like, say, instead of saying like I'm anxious, you could just say like I'm feeling anxious, or I having, so it's kind of like, it's not that it's not part of your identity. It's just how you're feeling at this moment. So then that way you can
Exactly.
change how
You are
you,
not anxious.
right. You're just,
You are not an anxious person.
right.
You're just feeling anxious right now in this moment.
Yeah.
And it's temporary, so calm down, it's gonna pass.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So in those moments for me, I always love to do, I'm really big into just taking my daily walks. And even though we're in quarantine and lockdown right now, I'm very grateful that I have lots of parks close to me. So I do a lot of like walking
That's
meditations, because I know that for some people, meditation, you kind of have to just sit in one place so you can quiet your mind. But sometimes for me to quiet my mind, I have to just also be moving, but not like moving in like a hard hit workout per se or anything, but just being out in nature, getting those breaths of fresh air, listening to positive affirmations as I'm doing my walking. So it's kind of like that walking meditation piece of it. And then I think also, just to shift that mindset, I do a lot of like mind shift mantras. So kind of like what
okay.
you were doing with like your journaling, how like, like
I
write.
think that's
Yeah. So it's kind of like the mantra, or like, and then that's kind of similar to like the intention of the day. So the mantra of the day or things like that. Just to kind of, so then I have something to focus on, instead of dwelling on something else, which helps.
yeah. It's what I said before is you brainwash your head, but brainwash it yourself and do it with good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just feed it with good thoughts. Otherwise, we have many bad thoughts around us, people judging, other people's stories, that you start thinking it's my fault, or is he angry because of me, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone with its own story, so leave it. If the other is angry, leave it.
Right.
And you are responsible of your side, of course. If you have done something bad, it's okay. Sometimes happens, but don't take the other responsibility on you, and you take yours, do your work, and that's fair enough to make your life better, and also other lives better in the long term, because you will not put your anxiety or your grief into others.
Mm-hmm.
That's very common as well. And you feel that certain people, it's obliged to do certain things for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not true.
Right.
That comes again with fulfilling your needs. The moment you fulfill your needs, you don't need to ask nobody else.
Right.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that creates a lot of conflict, a lot, especially in couples. We are always expecting our partner meets our needs. And it's true, there are certain needs that have to be met as a couple, or certain needs that your parents have to give you
Mm-hmm.
in your childhood. But sometimes those needs are not met, and that's what creates a lot of griefs and patterns and beliefs and thoughts, because at the end, where any belief is a thought in your mind that repeats over the time.
Mm-hmm.
And those things we have to be very aware and start thinking about it, and digging slowly, because that doesn't happen from one day to another.
Yeah.
But it's a very fulfilling work, I must say, because the moment you understand yourself more, you also understand others more. You become more empathetic.
Right.
And you understand when others might having a bad day, you learn not to take personal stuff from others. Because you understand how it feels having a bad day. And this conflict starts disappearing from your life the moment you dissociate yourself, stop identifying yourself from others and also from your own bad thoughts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a really big piece of all of this too, is just once you're nicer to yourself, you can be nicer to others. And that's what we want everyone to have for us as well, right? So it's that, like the empathy that you're saying, just like having that compassion. And I think all of that is such a big piece of just Scoliosis Awareness Month as well, right? Just because it's that awareness. So it's like all comes down to the awareness of yourself, the awareness of how you feel. And then that's going to help you feel more open to everyone else as well. But then also helping other people feel more open to you. Like, you know, it's like kind of just like give and take. And
Yeah. Yeah. I think the point there, or what you're trying to say is that when the moment you show people how you're feeling, and you're more open to yourself, others are also becoming more open to you.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
You stop making yourself a victim and asking for needs, and you should carry this for me because I have scoliosis, or you should any other stuff like that.
Yeah.
The moment you are kind to yourself, you also start being kind to others, and that conflict disappears. And also there is not only conflict disappears, it's this starts growing relationships more compassionate, and the more understanding comes in.
Mm-hmm.
It happens completely the opposite. It's from being completely in tension with yourself as well, and with your partners or family, and when you're at peace, and you reflect that, and people know that, that's when you those feelings you notice. It's when you meet a person, for example, and you don't know why that person is causing you bad feelings. I don't know, but this person doesn't feel good. You notice those sensations without even opening your mouth. When you enter a room and the person is angry, you notice that. You know where the fashion, not only for the face expression, is the way it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least it's a chemical interaction between us, between the humans. There's no it's not rocket science, honestly. I also thought that was kind of at the beginning, that this is a spiritual thing, that what is this? Oh my God, where am I going? No, it's energy. We are energy, we are heat, we are chemicals, we are hormones, and all that we obviate, we don't think about it. It's happening.
Yep.
When you meet a person, when you interact with your family, your partners, that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it makes such a difference if we're kind of bringing that positive energy, right? So once you kind of can shift it in your mindset, you can be more of that positive energy. But then also, in order to for me, sometimes to shift my mindset, it's also because I'm a big feeler of like energy. So like I pick up other people's energy very easily. And I try not to, but that's just, I pick it up and then I will reflect it or something. So I try to be around people who have the energy that make my day brighter, you know, so that be around people who are gonna bring out the best in you.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah. So, because that's so important versus being some, you know, like that whole, you don't want to be with someone who's gonna like suck that energy out of you or anything either, and you don't want to be someone who's gonna suck the energy out of somebody else either. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, it's important the moment when you feel uncomfortable in one place or with somebody to take your part, okay? So, because you play a role in there. At the moment there's an interaction between two things, you are playing a role as well. It's not like it's the other's fault, okay?
Of course, yeah.
Can't
blame it on everyone else.
It's the play's fault. It's because he's angry, that's why I'm not feeling good. No, okay.
Yeah.
But there might be something there as well in you. So you can take the chance and ask yourself, okay, why I'm giving so much importance that he's angry or to certain things he's telling me. That's also, I know, a way or a very nice way to grow. Not only put the awareness in yourself, also in what it's outside, because it's a mirror of your feelings.
Oh, for sure. That's a really good point. So do you, I guess like as you're talking about that, I think about sometimes I'll journal at night, also just kind of based on those interactions that I have, just especially if I want to reflect and like learn from them. So do you do your journaling in the morning or at night or both, like with it?
Yeah, or either in the morning or at night, because when you feel your mind is still not doing its work to protect you, so there's much less ego there. So morning and night both are fine. Both either one or the other. Sometimes I do morning, sometimes I do night. That's also, you have to explore yourself and when it fits better for you, when it works better.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking I do it at night when I'm having those kind of, you know, that push and pull with someone, or if I absorb someone's energy or I don't, or, you know, kind of more on the interactions of the day, versus in the morning, it's more introspective on myself for my.
Okay. Yeah, in the morning you're kind of more fresh.
Yeah.
And you go along the day, you reach the night, and your mind has been racing for a while.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's tired.
Right.
And then you can rewire a little bit with the writing.
Yeah.
Your thoughts. And then you go to sleep with good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's really important too. It's just like going to sleep, making sure you're giving yourself that time to rest and rejuvenate. But going to sleep with like good thoughts as well, so that you can wake up feeling refreshed. So I think that's a big.
It's quite important. Yeah.
Part of that self-care as well, for sure. Oops. All right. It looks like she might have just dropped off. Let me try that again. Could we actually only have 2 more minutes? I'm so sorry that went way longer than.
Because we did 1 hour.
Yeah, so we have 2 minutes. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think we'll just have to say our last remarks. Do you have anything to recap from today?
Well, there's many things.
Yeah. Well, you have 1 minute.
1 minute.
If anyone has any questions, I'm going to post this to my IGTV. So if you want to just post in the comments and we can answer the questions, because I'm not going to be able to, I don't think we'll be able to see these after we save it. But Aida, do you have anything you want to say before we get off? I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today.
Thank you. I see myself frozen. I don't know if it's, I'm moving with the camera.
Yeah, on my side it just says connecting, but it's going to show up in 1 minute. So, are you still there? Whoops. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I hope that you were able to take some self-care practices for your well-being. Hi. That you can take into your everyday, just with your scoliosis, with everything happening all over the world, with the protests, with COVID, all of it. So hopefully this was helpful Thank you so much for sharing your practices with us today. I love the journaling with
Thanks to
the
you
list.
for inviting me.
Yes, of course. And everyone, definitely go follow Scoliosis Mental Health. She has lots of great information on there. Just like with all like the sticky notes and a history of scoliosis, which is really interesting. So, all right, last
Well,
5 seconds.
thanks, Eve.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for your
very
time,
much.
everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.